So what I was wondering, you do so much beautiful work, and all the work that you're doing has its focus on inspiring people to become more aware of who they truly are. You help raise the global level of consciousness, I would say. And the first words in your book I really liked, because you said that today the person I am is so different from the one I was before my biking accident.
Yes,
So
definitely.
can you tell
Yes.
me a bit more about how your own personal, like, consciousness wake up call unfolded itself?
Yes, yes. I mean, I have always been a very hardworking person. I had two very hardworking parents, and they instilled in me a really good work ethic. And I think, I ran with it. When I was in my 20s, I started a company in the entertainment industry, which was no small feat at 20, 21 years old to have. I mean, it was interesting because most of the producers that I was working for were in their 60s. And so they were looking at me with the company, but I was able to I have this company and I still have it today, filling audiences for television shows. Total niche business. There's still only 5 companies that do it in LA.
Well,
So I still have this company, but it was back then I provided this service where I could fill a pilot or a presentation or any show that didn't fill the, there's 70 shows that tape a week here in LA. So here I am working my butt off, sleeping on my office floor, waking up the next morning, doing my day job, starting my company by night. I mean, really full on. So there wasn't a lot of time for relationship in my life. Plus, the industry tends to have, what should I say, competition, infidelity, a lot of that going
mm,
on in that industry, right?
yeah.
And I was I was getting caught up in that. I was getting kind of sucked into that way, and I was dating this one guy who was not in the industry. He was an accountant and a mountain biker. And I, needless to say, was not treating the relationship well at all. So we went to our last mountain bike race together. We had broken up, and it was one of those, just, we can't do this anymore. He said to me, I can't do this anymore. And I said, all right, so let's just go. This last it was not good. So he said, I'll go to the last race with you and support you, since it was one of those California State Championship races where you do 7 races throughout the year, and then the last race is a double points race. And I had gotten to a certain level. I was second overall in the series. So he said, let me just go with you, nice guy, right? To support you, right? I think I would have gotten that. And I didn't. I wasn't treating the relationship as a priority in life. And everything in life is relationship. Every person that you have a dealing with is relationship. And I didn't get that. And so I'm in the final lap of this race that's 108 degrees, over 5,000 feet of climbing, 26 miles, and it was a loop. It was loops, and so the last loop, right before you just get to the finish line, the finish line was a long descent. It was a switchback descent,
Yeah.
and I usually was able to overtake the girl in front of me on the switchbacks because John, the ex-boyfriend, taught me how to descend. He taught me how to hit corners and apexes and how to let go of the brakes off the curve, and he taught me how to do this. So I thought, oh, how did I catch her? How did I possibly do that? Okay, let's do this. I can actually win the series. And it was like a relief to me. It was like a shock to me that this even occurred. And I think I let go at
Yeah.
that moment. And that was the moment that I passed out while I was riding. So I was on the bike on top of a hill, completely blacked out. And I must have, and the doctor said the memory loss is retroactive. So I'm not sure when I passed out, but I fell hard because I must have just hit my head. The first thing I must have hit was my head because my helmet was cracked in 13 places and my jersey was ripped, and I fell a long way, and my whole jersey was stuffed with pine needles, which I still don't know how they got inside my jersey.
Hmm.
But I mean, I must have rolled for a long time. And
Yeah.
so that, it was interesting because the moment that I realized that there was a connection between John and I, and that my whole life really changed, was when I started to float outside of my body, and when I started to go into this place of this vast, pure, expanded, so much bigger than me level of consciousness. And I looked down at the little thing that was my body, and I thought, my God, all of this exists, and I'm trying to fit into that little thing, and I thought that's all there was, you know? And I looked at that, and I'm like, wow, no, this is so much more vast and so much more amazing and alluring. And I just kept going towards that place. It was a state. It wasn't a place, because a place would have been too small. It was a different dimension. I mean, it was a different expanded space. There's no words to really explain this, but it was expansive. Everything. I mean, that's why I love the ocean and the sky, because it was like that. And anything that I could envision or just feel was here, was like here. It was me. It was all the same thing. I was not separate from anything. And then I looked down and I could feel the EMT's feelings and their thoughts and their desires and their yearnings. I could feel their purpose and their lack of purpose. And then I saw John come up next to my body, and then I saw this energy exchange between the two of us, and it was this beautiful, it was like an iridescent, opalescent energy. It was like a cord, if you will. And it looked significant enough to distract me from what was going on up here. And so I got back in there, in that container, the body, and because I wanted to look at him and let him know I'm still here. But when I got in, it was so painful. And the medics had put my body on a stretcher, and they were turning it to the side because I was throwing up. And I heard them say, turn her body so she doesn't choke on her own vomit. Just turn her. And that was nothing I wanted to be a part of. So I left again because it was too painful in there. I was throwing up. I was listening to all this information. There was John. And then I just left again because it was much more peaceful where I was. There was no pain. There was no drama. There were no thoughts. There was just being.
Did you have a choice? If you're saying, well, I came back, or I went back to that state, did you feel that there was a choice that you could make or not?
There wasn't an option. No, there wasn't. There wasn't. It was a pulling. It was a lure. It was an inviting. It was an inviting feeling. And it was just being. And it was the most pure state of being that, and I imagine that when we die, this is what happens, is that you go to this alluring state of being, and it's so peaceful, and it's the absence of any pain you've ever felt, with even just the thoughts and the chatter and all of that busyness and loudness. It's gone in that state. And that was what I loved. And I kept getting pulled back into the body. They put my body on a helicopter, and I heard these the blades, and it was loud. And then there was this medic that said to me, "You're going to feel a little prick." And I'm like, he had a needle poised into my arm, and I just looked at him, and I thought, anything that's going to go into my body, I'm holding on by the red. Whatever he puts in there, I'm not going to be able to deal with. And it was probably just saline. It was probably just water. It was probably just something helpful. But I wasn't in the reasoning state of my mind, so I just batted his hand away. And a poor guy, I wish I could say thank you. Now he was just trying to help me. But then I left again, so I kept checking back in these moments where there were these critical physical moments for my body. Yeah. But I kept, I was tethered still to the body, but I was very much going to this expanded place of pure consciousness. And that's where I really learned that there's so much more there, and that we're so much bigger than our complaints and our little stuck places in life and the little containers that, even though our bodies are magnificent and I use mine to the fullest, right? I love the physical body, but I do know that they're just temporary, slowed down matter for the vastness that we truly are. Yeah. And that we can visit at any time if you just know it, if you just get it, that you can go, you don't have to have an accident like I had, that we can, through visualization like you have done, you can heal parts of your body. You can heal your mindset around those parts of your body. If someone once told me that you can't physically slow down time, you can only change your perception of time.
That's beautiful.
And it's interesting. So, and I don't know if it was another dimension too that I went into, but if it was, you can come and go from those dimensions too. You don't have to die necessarily to get there.
Well, that's of course, you got a completely different, your concept about life and death, of course, changed dramatically. And I'm not sure if you were afraid of death before, were you, or?
Not necessarily, but everyone is, I think, in some way. But that was the most incredible invitation to death that I've ever experienced. To this day, if I were to die, I know, that I'm still present, that I'm still accessible, and that those who have crossed over are, if you understand, to invite them back to the vibration we're in now. I've seen it happen so many times where people have told me how they've connected with their lost loved ones, and the way that they have been miracles. And I do believe that the spirit can just slow down and connect as long as the yearning, the vibrational match happens. The person's yearning and that soul's yearning to want to connect can, I believe, connect in a vibratory way. And, it's incredible. You've heard stories the same.
Yes. Well, beside of the fact that you have been speaking with so many people over the past years, this is, of course, such a wake-up call, and it changed your complete perception about consciousness. And that's what you just explained. Then what followed, and you write that in your book in a beautifully crafted way, beautifully in an emotional way, how you recovered. And it wasn't a beautiful story all the way along. But what do you think were the main contributing factors of your healing?
Wow. The power of the mind. I learned about the power of my mind when I woke up in the hospital and the doctor said, "What's your name? What's your birth date?" The vitals. And I couldn't speak. And that was a terrifying moment when I knew everything and then it wouldn't come out of my mouth. And I see my aunt go through this now, who has MS and who's a voracious reader. She reads about 6 books a week. So I know her mind is there.
Yeah.
I just know that it can't get through the physical faculties to get out the mouth. And that's very trapping feeling, and it's scary, and the fear builds up. It was such a major source of anxiety for me when I couldn't get it out of my mouth. Now, it's one of the reasons why I do a talk show, because I'm so grateful to be able to speak every day. And there's times where, if I go for a long time without doing something with my brain, I will reverse words, not be able to type. It goes back very, very quickly. So brain entrainment is what saved me. When I learned the power of the brain, and I did this through many, many different ways, I found a neurofeedback doctor who had created a new protocol that he was experimenting with kids with epilepsy and autism, and really significantly healing these kids. His name is Dr. Barry Sturm, and I mentioned him in the book, and he since has gone on to lecture around the world, the Netherlands and many places, about his protocol being so transformational for people, because it's just, it's electrodes on the brain, and then your body and your brain sends a feedback signal to the computer, and it comes back in a reward system where it sends. There's an image on the computer that's a hot air balloon, and there will be one little square of this beautiful, colorful balloon. And as my brain starts to entrain and get into a coherent pattern, the prefrontal cortex was damaged. So it would send a signal, which would then strengthen that cortex and build the neurons. And that signal would go through to the computer. The computer would recognize it and then one-up the signal and send it back. Minutely, teeny little signal. And that process over a year was how I started to rebuild my language and my speech. Memory, still didn't really. That's a tough one. Short-term memory loss, I still struggle with, and long-term it's like Swiss cheese. There's a gape. There's holes. There's holes in my long-term memory, but it's okay.
Well, that process that you described also in your book, it fascinated me because I wasn't so much familiar with this concept, and it really related. I could relate to that, and I can imagine that it has so many use for different applications.
Yes. I went back late, just about a year ago, when I was going through hormonal issues, and nothing else was working for me. And then I read, wow, EEG can actually, of course, hormones are stimulated from the brain. So why wouldn't I go back through EEG to balance hormones? And I thought, wow, that could be non-invasive and great, because I was having an allergic reaction to everything else. And so I went back and I balanced my hormones through EEG. And I need to go back and do that again, because it's one of those things where you can go through a 6-week process, but you need to stick with it twice a week and then stick with it beyond that. So I'm still experimenting with that. There's so many ramifications. And Dr. Othamer, who I wrote about in my book, I asked him, he's healed incredible, and that's a powerful word to say, healed.
Yeah.
But I've seen what he's transformed in people's lives. And he said, I said, why isn't this more widely known? And he said it would threaten every industry out there. Every pharmaceutical industry, every medical industry, it would threaten them all. And it's not going to get the credibility that it needs, because every other industry would cave. And he's right. So let's go for something that works. It's non-invasive, and the success rate is amazing because you're working with the brain.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the center, the hub.
Yeah. So anything next to the technicalities, like the EEG, was there something else that really supported you during your path?
Yeah, I was going through visualization classes, meditation classes, building my intuitive skills. It was intuition classes. And I was learning how to visualize mostly. Most meditation is visualization. And I was doing it with other people, so that I would sit across from somebody and we would look at the mental image pictures in somebody else's space. And I would be able to read theirs and they would be able to read mine. And I went through this type of training for about 5 years because it's a skill you just develop over time. Anyone can. Yeah. And that's how I really learned visualization, because when I would visualize something that I would see in somebody else's space and get a confirmation and really receive a validation for that, I started to trust the pictures I was seeing and the colors I was seeing and the images and the feelings, because we all emit that field. We all emit the vibratory field of what it is that we're working on or struggling with or aspiring towards. It's all in our field. But for me, it shows up like pictures around your energy field. Yeah. Yeah. And this is where I think the lady called in and said, "Can you tell?"
Yeah.
I think.
Well, isn't it funny, Lisa? Because when I was younger, somewhere at probably elementary school, and there were those parent-teacher interviews, and that the teacher said, "Well, he's doing great at school, but he's so much daydreaming," and now that was kind of a negative. And now we're so proud. We use visualization for healing and everything, and we are proud that we can apply that in our lives. So it's
Yes.
completely reversed. So we're so disconnected from that.
I see my daughter do this is as a child. She's 12, but I see her. She's a bit with a big group, and she's always staring off to the side or last in line, or when everybody else rushes to be, get in the
Yeah.
lunch line. She's just kind of observing, and I see what she's doing. I see her absorb. She doesn't know what to do with it yet, but I see her absorbing the energy rather than anybody, criticizing her, saying, "Why are you always last?" and speed up. I'm never going to tell her that because
Yeah.
we do that.
Yeah.
You walk into a room and have so much because you're hypersensitive. So much must bombard you when you walk into a room that you just reserve. You just pull back, and that's what I do. I just kind of, okay, too much information. Chill. Yeah, it's many people. That's why I think that my radio show is so well received by people because we talk about that.
Yeah.
It's okay to be extra sensitive and to be hypersensitive because all it is you absorbing everyone else's field. So this is why the tools that we talk about on the show and the beautiful people that I interview on the show gives people tools on how to deal with what would normally blow you out and then be criticized or judged.
Yeah.
And then you get some practical tools around that, and then you learn how to ground and separate and a little bit of protection, and then read the pictures and then be neutral. And it gives you I'm okay feeling,
And I think it's nature's way to build some kind of, in a natural way, resilience towards everything that's happening around you. And some people deal with that in a different way, but like your daughter, it's probably some kind of natural buildup of resilience because you need to protect yourself from a lot that's going on outside.
Yes, because you can read everybody's pictures. Yeah.
If you sprain your ankle, it gets bruised and it gets really thick, and it's a protective way. It protects the body, and I see this in a similar way, actually.
Well, yes, but along those lines, most people don't understand this is what's going on, so they protect themselves with physical padding or with illness or some way where they can justify the detachment or the protection. And if we understood a little bit more of how much of other people's energy we're absorbing, and if we could just understand a little more on how to protect from that, then you could be in big crowds, you could go to, the movies and not worry about it. I mean, but it's a natural thing to absorb somebody else's energy field because it's ever present.
Yes.
It's there.
But what you do, like in your shows, and what you also share in the book, what I really love is that we don't necessarily need to see ourselves as separate human beings, of course, and that's how often a lot of the trouble starts. And when we see ourselves connected, and when I feel some of your pain or some of your joy, and we can share that with each other, we respond in such a different way.
That's why you're probably such a good interviewer, and that's why I, the same way, is that I am insatiably curiously looking and reading the person's pictures that's talking to me, and I see them. I see the pictures, and then I can feel the audience's pulse and what they're yearning, what they want to ask. And then I'll ask that, and it's a dance for me. That's why I love what I do. For me, it's an unfoldment of a beautiful energy exchange.
It is.
I will always do this. I love what I do.
No, I can tell that, and it's so funny when I talk to guys from like my age. He says, "Well, I still have another 3-4 years until I retire," and I think, "Oh, how sad, that you look at that that way, that you finally can retire and then do what? Then live your life that you really want to live, or what is it?"
Right. Yes.
But now, so we're talking about like let's assume that most of us, will not be involved in a serious bike accident. Most of us will probably never experience an NDE. And I can imagine that, especially when you are with your back against the wall, you're not left with so much choice anymore. you take a certain path, and it's maybe innate, innate coming from who you truly are. You respond in a certain way. But for all those people who don't go through that, but they still want to to create and to raise their level of awareness and consciousness, how could they do that? Because it seems that if you still have options left to choose from, then you always have an excuse, not to raise that level of awareness. So how would you talk to people who say, well, I would love to raise my level of awareness. I didn't go through those extreme situations.
Right.
Still, I'm interested to raise it.
Yes. This is where the practicality of this comes in, because I'm all about it, making it practical. I am not necessarily about going to, the mountaintop and meditating. Yes, that's a really great experience. But I like making visualization something that you can do several times a day, several ways. And that's what connects you to your consciousness. Mm-hmm. If you can, even just, on the way home from wherever you're going, work or dropping off kids or whatever, if you could just have that quick conversation with your God of your heart, or yourself, or whoever that you're seeing in the line, your exchange with somebody in the line that day, you're at the supermarket or the gas station, whatever, that friendly exchange. These are the moments of consciousness, quick conscious conversations that light up your day and light up their day. Yes, you can do a good 10-minute visualization for what it is that you're creating in your life. I did it the other day with, I saw my book going up into the ranks on Amazon, and I was shocked. And I'm like, what? It's actually climbing? And then I realized, gosh, where's my level of havingness for that to happen? And it wasn't there. So I sat down. In 10 minutes, I went, okay, visualize. Okay, this level. Visualize this level. Check your havingness for this. Visualize this level. Increase your havingness for this. Visualize this level. Increase your havingness. And I went through this kind of elevator step of increasing my level of havingness for my book to become a #1 bestseller. And I went there, and there's so many different ways that you can do that. These are moments of conscious, practical awareness. And this is how you can build this every single day. You can, in the morning, if you have a routine of being dog tired and dragging yourself out of bed and getting the kids ready to school and getting there and, oh my God, that doesn't set up your day very well. You can add in a conscious, quick conversation there with, hey, let's put your phone down. What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind? Or an extra hug, or just little things like that raise your level of awareness slowly but surely throughout your day. And then that connects you to a deeper source. And it seems simple, but it's the simple things that add up that make your overall level of conscious awareness increase. And that's what I'm here to talk about. That's what the book talks about. It's conscious catalyst is what we call it.
Well, they seem simple, but yet, and that's so profound, they are very accessible. And that's so important, of course. And of course, I wanted to bring this up because I read your book, and I love everything about your book. And you do that so beautifully in a way, because in part 1, what you do is you write about becoming aware. You talk about your accident. You talk about how you made a complete shift, how you relate to the world and to other people. And in part 2, you share your so-called beautiful awareisms, where yes. You talk about living an aware life, and that's where you give a lot of very useful tips. I was actually wondering if I were to ask you, what is your definition? Because you use that so often, and in your show, what is your definition of becoming aware?
That's a great question. Becoming aware for me is having connected, conscious conversations throughout your day. We get busy, there's so many distractions in our world, but when you just have eye-to-eye contact, or a conversation that makes a difference, or you pick up the phone rather than doing a text, it can be so quick and so easy. I do believe that having those quick practical, conscious connections throughout your day, that's my definition of becoming aware. It's simple. It's so simple.
Yeah.
And I know it absolutely increases your level of happiness. And that is one of the things that we're all looking for. Those little moments of happiness throughout the day, they add up. Rather than disregarding your significant other when you're too busy, just a quick, how's your day going?
Mm-hmm.
And, it could take a minute, a deep listening. All right, well, we could talk about that a little bit deeper later. Here's maybe just one or two things, rather than I'm a too busy for you conversation. That doesn't work. And so those are the things. And lots of, for raising children, my God, that's a huge thing. Conscious conversations throughout the day, because their soul needs to individuate. But to know that there's a tether or a way to still connect is so valuable for a growing child. It's huge.
Tell me all about it. Just an hour ago, our youngest boy left the house.
What?
So he's going to his first job for the whole summer. He's gone, and he might not come back because he probably will do something else at the other side of the world. And so
How old is he?
18 or 19, just turned 19. And so two children leaving the house now in a relatively short time, but at the same time realizing that we did a good job, raising aware kids, and they are so beautiful. It's so beautiful to see that they go out on their own, and it's really nice.
It's amazing. I mean, that's the soul's journey, is they need to individuate, but it's challenging, isn't it?
No, I know it is, but what I really like about your message, and in that respect, you're a woman of my heart, is that the simplicity, what you concentrate on, because I think I love simplicity. I think that life, although it might be so intelligent, I think is meant to be really simple in a way. We make it often so complex. And I once interviewed Moji, and he says, well, the truth is so simple, but yet the seeker of the truth is making it complex. And I really relate to that.
So true. And that's why, I love what Oprah did, because she really paved the way and was such a pioneer for bringing that tragedy to triumph story. And if they can do it, you can do it, story. What I love to do is take that story, and here's the practicality of it. Here's the steps on how to. Here's the 1, 2, 3. Here's how, that's what I love bringing in, is that level of practicality. It does seem simple, and I really love talking about this. This is because this is one of the first few interviews I've done, and to really discover that this is my message is fun for me. I'm really starting to just fine-tune what my message is. It's what I've done for 15 years, is every day I get onto the radio or whatever the platform is, and I talk about the practical message of how to gain awareness around your health, your wealth, your relationships, your fun, whatever it is. Yeah. That's what I talk about every day, is these steps, and it's just a constant up-leveling. Yeah. Yesterday, my family and I, it was Sunday, and we had a big house cleaning project throughout the day. We were redoing my daughter's room. She's going from the stuffed animals to like a tween. So we did this project, and it was like tons of minutia and stuff. So we got out, and we got our skateboards, and we went down to the beach, and the three of us just went skateboarding on the beach. Cool. And just needed to get out in nature, connect as a family. We only had 4 hours. So we drove down to the beach, just went out, got beautiful nature, part of life, got outside, and just connected. And then I had, to come back, and I had an interview to do last night, but it was all good because we had that window. And those moments, rather than burying yourself, yes, we had stuff to do, and we were an organizing project, which is boring, but we still managed to connect. And that's what's so important.
Yeah. But you have learned, and I've done the same, but we've learned to to live in this current moment, because we know that, of course, this is all we have. And even like this conversation, which is, it's so much fun to me, although I help, you spread the word and whatever it is. But if we cannot be present right now, and we have to think about other stuff and what's next or whatever we feel from something that happened before, a lot of the energy is gone already in this conversation. And it's so fun to be in this moment. And like what you did yesterday with the family, just take that moment and just fully enjoy it.
Yes.
And of course, you know how precious it is, because you know also how quickly things can change in your life.
Absolutely.
So,
and how quickly we get disconnected. I think there's, as powerful as the internet is, it disconnects us personally, one-on-one. And it gets us in our own little worlds. And so, there's definitely a lack of one-on-one, eyeball-to-eyeball connection. And I'm okay with it, via this way as well, because you're live and I'm live, and that's okay. I do a lot of Google Hangouts. But I uplifted all of my summits to Hangouts, because doing it over the phone, it's a little bit more disconnected. I love Hangouts.
I often get the request to do an interview, and then over the phone I said, well, if possible, I would like to connect, eye to eye, because that's how I get to see a little bit more of that person. I get to understand this person better. It's so different. So I agree.
And when you're on an interview, you're constantly eye to eye. You're not drifting or looking at your notes or watching the email pop up. And whenever I do radio shows, I ask for the guests to come in person, which is a lot to ask these days because LA traffic's crazy. But I do ask that first. And the more eager people will come in, and the interviews are much better.
Well, maybe in the future they will be delivered by drones, like Amazon or so starts to do. They will be dropped off in front of the studio. You can just talk to them.
That's interesting. Using the airspace.
So you were just talking about the fact that you've been speaking with so many beautiful souls, like authors, spiritual teachers, scientists. If you were to choose the single one most important thing you have learned from them, what would it be? It's not an easy one, I know.
I know, but you know what? I really do look at everything from the perspective of the brain. I think most everything that we do has to do with the chemicals that are releasing in our brain. And I think the more we understand that our thoughts and feelings and emotions are a reaction from what's happening in our neurochemistry, I do believe that it's at the base of so many interactions that we have in life. And I've really loved what Joe Dispenza has talked about in terms of I have absorbed his information and taken it to heart and really learned, you don't take things as personally when you realize, this is a chemical reaction, or this is a release of dopamine, or here's an oxytocin exchange. And then when you start to realize that's happening, you can actually dive into it a little bit deeper. I think we all could use a little bit more serotonin in our lives. And serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin can literally be released in a connected conversation. It can be, and visualization as well. It can literally, like right now, as we're speaking, all sorts of happy chemicals are releasing in our brain. And we're going to get up and we're going to feel better. And anyone who's participating in this conversation right now has the same, even, they're reading it in print, has the same experience. And I think that's powerful.
It is very powerful.
Really
I know we both have learned a lot from Joe, and I went to an advanced workshop, and I learned so much, and so that's really, really cool.
I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to get to one of his advanced workshops, because I've heard it's amazing.
Very
and the
powerful.
The brain things
very
it does.
Powerful.
Really cool.
So now you have been doing all those interviews over the past years, always absorbing all that information. Now you wrote your own first book. What would you say, what have you learned from writing this book?
I've learned, first of all, I've learned so much about myself. I've learned about how writing a book is it's your calling card for saying, hey, this is how I'm showing up in the world. This is who I authentically am. And every moment that I have that's disconnected during the day, I go back to that. Hey, you wrote a book on awareness, lady.
Yeah, that's cool.
You
Yeah.
are not allowed right now to have this moment. And I catch myself more and more if someone wants to engage in gossip, or if it hits me in a different way. I can't be an author of becoming aware and gossip. Are you kidding me? Or if I get short-tempered with the dog pooping. I mean, things like that. I can't do that. I mean, I can't lose it. Not that I can't. It's just that I check myself more because I have written a book about becoming aware. You better believe I am going to measure that up against every moment in my life where I'm not aware.
Yeah.
And it is a work in progress for me. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey of where I'm not aware in my life.
Yeah.
And I am definitely not perfect, and nobody is. But I get to illuminate and shine the flashlight just in my own conversation, in my own way,
Yeah.
with my own self. I'm the one who's accountable.
Yeah. That's cool. I often like to wear the T-shirt I designed myself, and it's because about be beautiful.
Nice.
And
Nice.
it's funny because when I wear it, I'm even more aware of the fact that even when I walk into people who are not nice to me, I think, oh yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah.
So it's a similar feeling.
Yes, it is. It's an interesting feeling. And I'm definitely, again, I don't want to say that I've got it right or I'm perfect in any way. I'm in progress. I am the journey, like everyone is. And if you can increase those little teeny conscious conversations throughout your day, it really, really does increase your level of happiness. That's my main message. And to get this conversation is mainstream, to get it into the mainstream, to get it into the media, to crack the consciousness of media. It's getting there.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
It is, yeah. So now, actually, I have a last question because I'm a curious guy, and we talk about energy, we talk about nature, we talk about the human body. I all relate it to one huge energy, and I call it love. So
Yeah.
I always love to ask this question because I'm very curious to know what you think about what love means to you.
Mm. Last night, I just watched the movie The Giver. And in the movie, they are a society that has taken out the emotion of love through this injection they take every day. And the whole movie is about the giver giving to the receiver the emotion of love again. If you can imagine a world without love, it's a completely flat, dark, numbed out world. Love adds color, it adds texture, it adds complexity, it adds contrast, it adds beauty, it adds connection. Love is the thread of every single thing that we do. It's a motivator, it's a detacher. I mean, it's at the basis of every single thing that we do. And if I could rename the book, it would be called Love. It's about love is the basis of awareness.
Yum,
It is.
it's a beautiful description.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you,
is.
that's really cool.
Thing we do.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking that.
Well, I'm so grateful that we can talk and that I can help you share your message and that you have been sharing so many other messages because that's how we feel so strongly connected. And if I can help you, I already feel much better. So giving is also such a beautiful thing.
Thanks. I really want you to hear that. Thank you so much for contributing back to me. I really appreciate it. And it's not easy for me to receive that. And I really definitely
Come on,
appreciate
you
it.
can do that.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I know the
That's cool.
power of that. Thank you.
Thank you.